Rock and roll. Welcome everyone to Friday 15 with Master B2B. My name is Brian Beck. I'm here with Andy Hoare, my co-host on this intergalactic podcast. Welcome, Andy, to Friday 15.
Hey, good to be here. We got an interesting topic today, a little departure from what we usually talk about, but nonetheless, very important topic. And I know you've spent a lot of time thinking about it.
Yes,
So
I
this
sure
may be more Brian Beck today and less Andy Hoare. Just to alert our affiliates.
Right? Affiliates, yes. Do we have affiliates? Excellent. Well, everyone, before we get going, of course, as usual, we need to do our breaking news. Everybody, look at this. Andy, you found this. AI can now pass the hardest chartered or certified financial analyst test. The CFA test, Andy, is one of the hardest things any financial professional has to take, right? And this is something that, people spend 1,000 hours, several years studying for. However, new research shows that AI can now pass the test, even the toughest one, in just minutes. This is fascinating, Andy. What does this signal to you?
If you've got a white collar, watch out. Because,
and you do?
But we say this a lot. It doesn't mean it's wise. It does mean it's really smart, not necessarily wise. And I think of the analogy of like a child prodigy.
Right.
And by the way, the research shows that most child prodigies end up not doing very well later in life. They're very good at the beginning. They impress everybody. We have all this hope that they're going to, cure cancer. And a lot of times they end up not doing that because they're not really capable of evolving. They excel at one thing, they get locked into that one thing, and they can't, reinvent themselves later like we all have to in our lives.
Right.
This could be different though, because ChatGPT, these AI engines are constantly evolving. And so by definition, they evolve that way. But I don't know if you saw the article in the Wall Street Journal, I think it was this morning, about the amount of money being spent on AI. It is unbelievable. People are likening it now to the boom of the .com era, not the .com companies, but the infrastructure around the .com. Right. I had a couple of interesting notes here. Facebook is going to spend $600 billion on AI within the next 3 years. There's a company called CoreWeave, which was a backwater company that's building on these data centers. It's now worth more than Target.
Wow.
And the last one is interesting. This is where people are concerned about this bubble, is that OpenAI just committed to a contract to spend $60 billion a year with Google.
My God.
Oracle. And Oracle's like, well, this is amazing. Guaranteed $60 billion. The only problem is right now, OpenAI is making $13 billion a year in revenue. So they got to get that number way up, or they got to get the other number way down, or there's going to be this divergence that nobody will be able to be explained. That's just one company.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing you said there, Andy, I'm not sure, most companies are now worth more than Target, including the corner store, probably. So I don't sorry, Target. So anyhow, well, folks, we got to get to our topic today, which is why do B2B firms fail to protect their brands online? Andy, this is close and near to my heart, I guess, sort of, in terms of brands actually protecting themselves. It's e-commerce and just the whole web is just can be rife with all kinds of bad actors and, folks who sell your products you don't know. Why are brands not protecting this? And I think the best way to kind of describe this, Andy, is looking at Amazon, right? So we did a poll, my company Enciba, which manages Amazon programs for branded B2B manufacturers. We did a poll a couple years ago that asked several hundred manufacturers, a bunch of questions. Among them was, are resellers selling your products on Amazon? Who are, are your products sold on Amazon? Almost 70% said yes. Then we asked the question, do you know who these people are? Almost 70%, over 70% said, no, we don't know who they are selling our products. This is perhaps the most acute example of losing control of your brand online. Amazon, there's so much motivation for companies to sell products there, for small, folks, opportunistic resellers, etc., to sell products on Amazon because, it's easy. If you have a big brand, companies can go on and sell your product. A great example of this is my friends over at Milwaukee, right? Everybody knows Milwaukee. They have great tools. Well, Milwaukee, I'm sorry to say, your situation is a complete mess on Amazon. You have hundreds and hundreds of companies selling your products. You probably, I'm sure, don't know who most of them are. Sorry, I'm talking directly to you, Milwaukee. But this is representative of what happens with a big brand on Amazon and on the internet when you don't control it. This is one of their top selling products, Andy, on Amazon. This product is over $1 million a year selling on Amazon. They have almost 50 resellers with names like Joe's Discount Store and Skigi and like all these weird, resellers. Skigi, that's actually a reseller's name, like Skivy, right? Like hundreds of these resellers that are selling their products on Amazon. And, who knows who these companies are? Discount Express Hardware and, all these just goofy names.
So these are not authorized
channels,
right? Okay, so Milwaukee doesn't know who these companies are. They may have gotten diverted inventory or something like that.
Yes. Stuff falling off the back of a truck or, people buying it through, whatever, eBay and then putting it up on Amazon or buying it from Amazon and then reselling it on Amazon because they got it on Prime Day or something. Look, at the end of the day, does Milwaukee know who all these are? I can't say for a fact they don't, but they don't, right? So it's yes, it's a lot of opportunistic sellers. And the sad fact is that these these companies like Milwaukee, this is a rampant issue. Most people don't know who these sellers are, and this has real costs. It leads to retail price erosion, right? How do these companies sell? How does Skigi sell the product of Milwaukee? Well, they drop the price. It's the only differentiation they have. They're not like an expert in industrial engineering. These companies are just they have the product. It fell off the truck and they have it in their garage and they're selling it at a low price. That's it, right? So retail price erosion, channel conflict. Guess what? Milwaukee sells to Grainger and Home Depot and Lowe's and MSC Industrial and all these others. Well, guess what? When you're negotiating a contract with those companies as Milwaukee, all of a sudden that company, they're not dumb. The distributor goes on Amazon, they look at the price, they go, "What the heck? Look at all this, I could buy it for cheaper on Amazon than you're trying to sell it to me for." So channel conflict, and that just deteriorates the brand reputation, the brand perception in the marketplace. Also, it leads to things like incorrect product information. We're going to hear from our special guest in a minute about, legal ramifications of some of these issues, right? You buy a product on Amazon, it may not even be the right product. My wife and I bought a volleyball. Andy, we play volleyball, right? I'm way too short, but we play volleyball. And we bought this beautiful, what we thought was a beautiful, I can't remember the make of it, but beautiful volleyball that's supposed to be a high-end, $50 volleyball. We got this cheap thing that had the same brand on it, but it was not it's not the actual product. Getting the wrong product, right? This is also what happens on Amazon. I'm getting fraudulent product or counterfeit. And then finally, you've got opportunity costs. If you're not controlling this, you've got, revenue and profit loss. You're not actually selling the product. You're not controlling the presentation. You're not actually the one selling the product. Therefore, you're losing profitability. In some cases, the revenue is going to an alternative counterfeit item. So there's real problems here. Why are brands not controlling this well? We have our friend here.
Brian, I got a question for you.
Okay, wait, before we introduce John. Okay. Hold on. Yep. Okay, go ahead.
No, so my question is, what'd you do with the volleyball?
Oh, we threw it away. What are you going to do?
Threw it away. So you didn't take any action to return that, get your money back or anything?
No, we issued a complaint against the seller. But
all right, well, because I was looking at your list and we're going to ask John this question in a moment.
Yeah.
I only saw one of those four things that was explicitly anti-buyer, meaning the other stuff was all on the seller side.
Stop.
So
okay.
As a buyer, if I can return this thing, or what do I care? Okay. So here we go.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Hey, John's got a few things to say about that. And by the way, okay, put your kid in that like freaking defective bicycle helmet and let them, when they run into the freaking wall and they have brain damage. Okay, sure, Andy, go for it. Right. So we have to comment and refute everything that Andy says. We have an expert here, John Groza.
Hey guys,
who's a partner at KJK. He's a lawyer. John, you and I have worked together on quite a few of these brand protection issues. KJK is a giant in the legal community, really fantastic firm. And John runs the intellectual property e-commerce practice. John, why don't you say hello and introduce yourself a little bit?
Hey guys, happy Ryder Cup Friday. Thanks for having me on. Always fun to talk about these issues. And so I'm a partner at KJK. As Brian mentioned, we're a full service business firm, but we do have a particular expertise in this e-commerce, what we term brand enforcement practice, which is national in scope. So we're helping manufacturers of all types, but typically with premium products that sit at the top of their respective marketplaces. And we help them in these situations shut down unauthorized resellers of their products, effectively protect their brand by virtue of protecting their intellectual property, and then shutting down these bad actors who have all sorts of negative ramifications on their brand as a whole and on their customer base and their distribution channels.
Right. So John, that's great. Thank you for joining us today. And you were an expert in these areas. I mean, what's your reaction to this? Why aren't companies doing this? Why aren't they controlling their brands? I mean, is it just concern about backlash, or is it concern about? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, this seems to be such an issue here.
It's certainly become more of an issue over the last several years. This practice is really kind of exploding. It could be a variety of reasons depending on organizational size and how many resources an organization has. But there's ways to combat this, regardless of the size of your organization, and it can stem from hesitation can result from a variety of reasons. One, feeling like you just don't know where to begin, not really understanding that you have rights in your intellectual property or copyrights, even if your product isn't patented or patentable, you still have rights in your copyrights and your trademarks.
Yep.
Which you should be vigilantly enforcing. And there's a way to do this without getting sideways. Some people fear getting sideways with Amazon. That's not going to be an issue for you. Some people fear getting sideways, depending on how they go to market with their distribution channels. In fact, I would argue that it's going to put you in a better position with your authorized distribution channels if you do police this effectively. And then some people fear backlash either from the consumer, customer, or if they wanted to pursue, and oftentimes you're not even pursuing actual litigation, but if you were to bring claims, are you subjecting yourself to some kind of an antitrust argument or some kind of counterclaim? And I would say in most instances, if you do it the right way, you shouldn't be as concerned about that. Obviously, every instance is unique. Other times it's simple as budgetary concerns or budgetary allocations within large organizations where some of our clients were dealing with the legal departments or the e-commerce group, or oftentimes we're kind of sitting in between both of those groups, and it's a budget. Well, whose bucket is this going to come out of to spend a little bit of money? And we find that it's always a wise investment, really. I mean, not to sound self-interested, but your brand is the most important thing you have going. And I would argue even oftentimes more important in this day and age, and in the world of e-commerce, it's more important than the intellectual property that would be potentially patentable. That's how your product actually works. Use Coca-Cola as an example, for instance. My understanding, the formula for the drink has changed many times over the decades, but it's that Coca-Cola brand that's so iconic and has so much value behind it that if you're not policing that, then it's probably not wise.
Well, Andy has this misguided, thinking about this is all bad for the buyer, right? I don't know, Andy, you want to clarify your point of view there?
My logic. So when I hear you're going to do you're going to do channel enforcement, brand enforcement, I hear as a buyer fewer options. Now, yes, some of those unauthorized sellers are probably shysters. Yes, and I'm going to get that defective product. But some of them, if you believe in the capitalist system and self-interest, that some of them are just selling the product and they're going to stand behind this. So you're going to remove options for me as a buyer. Why is that in my best interest as a buyer?
I would say quality over quantity, right? I mean, maybe potentially slightly fewer options, but better actual legitimate options. From a consumer standpoint, I mean, there's a huge consumer protection argument at play here, and debate really is that I would say companies that pay attention to who's out there selling their products, they're providing that consumer with the legitimate product. You never know if you're buying it from ABC Tools or whomever used Milwaukee earlier as an example. I mean, those are products that are Milwaukee's got a phenomenal brand, very worth investing in for sure. They also sell products that if not used properly, or if they haven't been shipped or stored properly, or they were damaged in the way they were handled or shipped, as the product gets to the end user, there's a consumer safety issue there. I mean, we're not talking about volleyballs, right? We're talking about potentially a handsaw or something that,
right.
If that was somehow altered by the seller, you don't know who these people are. I think your poll said 70% have an authorized reseller, and then another 70, equal percentage didn't even know who those people were. I mean, if I'm someone who's invested in my brand, I have my own business. I don't want just any Joe off the street being a quasi ambassador for my brand. It's not good business. And from a consumer standpoint, I think if I'm a consumer, I want to know that I'm buying it from an authorized dealer or distributor, whether that's e-commerce or brick and mortar, or from the manufacturer directly, because then I know that warranty is going to be viable.
Right.
If something goes wrong with the product in the future, I can go to the manufacturer. Now, many of these manufacturers probably say in their warranties and terms and conditions that if you don't buy it from an authorized channel or from us directly, warranty doesn't apply.
Right.
I think it's a case by case basis. Maybe a manufacturer would say, okay, we'll honor it, but and it also erodes the reputation, as you mentioned earlier, because if somebody else is out there speaking on behalf of your brand, I'm a consumer. I don't really care who, this is a Milwaukee product or whomever. I don't care where I bought it. I'm still going to hold you accountable in my mind. I'm associated. It's a Milwaukee product.
Right.
So
right. Exactly. Yeah. It's good points, John. I mean, Andy's just about, killing off all the babies. So you can just,
But I think it's not mutually exclusive. I think it's a win-win for both the manufacturer as well as the consumer.
No, totally agree. So let's get
the safety issue. I'll cede that one. It's true. You don't want to defect a product in the panel. I mean, you want more options, but I don't want to have bad product coming my way. And I think
some products are, a food product, for instance, there's not only a safety issue, but a quality issue. It might not be dangerous depending on what the food product is, or a vitamin product, some kind of supplement, or a battery or something that needs to be stored and shipped in a particular manner, whether there's a temperature issue or, if it's a battery product, these could potentially, if not handled properly.
Good points, John.
Yeah.
Good points. And, so yes, Andy, I mean, I think ultimately, John would argue, and I agree with him that, it's all about, it's about the seller, the brand, and the buyer. I mean, like the volleyball, or, there have been documented case studies or studies, and there was a Wall Street Journal article, I think a few years ago, and if you recall, talking about motorcycle helmets that were fraudulent sold through Amazon, that were represented as a brand, and people getting into accidents and dying. I mean, this is you got serious issues around this. John, I want to
go ahead. Other question. So all these arguments are valid, and again, I see there's some good arguments here. Then why doesn't Amazon care as much about this?
Well, I was just going to mention. I mean, so you've seen, Amazon makes their whole thesis is we're a marketplace. We're simply establishing a marketplace for other parties to transact. We're not necessarily taking responsibility for these products. However, there's, we've seen, as Brian mentions, there's been a backlash in the media, and some lawsuits I believe filed over the years where, once you start heading down that consumer safety path, Amazon is going to pay more attention to those types of issues and be more receptive to those arguments.
Well, the Consumer Product Safety Commission released something recently, John. I don't know if you saw it. I think it was last year or sometime early this year, where they talked about, Amazon now being classified as a distributor, meaning that they could be held responsible or liable for products sold through the marketplace channel. And I don't know if there's any real legal weight to that, but at the end of the day, the government seems to be after that, holding Amazon accountable for not only sales of products that they've bought in a vendor central or 1P model, wholesale model, but products that are, that are sold through the marketplace model. Any thoughts on that?
Was that directed to Andy's? Or, I mean, I have thoughts. I mean, I think.
Yeah, Andy doesn't have any thoughts. So yeah, you can.
Stephen Fortson just said, "Great question, Andy." So there you go.
Yes, thank you, Steve. Yes, thank you, Stephen. Yep. So not Mike, Stephen. How about, that was a good question too, right? John, go ahead.
No, you're exactly right. And Amazon is not going to care so much if you come to them and say, hey, what are you going to do about this? These people are using our logo,
right,
infringing on our trademark, and they're not authorized to sell. Amazon doesn't care about authorized sellers or not so much. But if you were to go to them and say, listen, like, this is a serious issue. We don't know who these people are. They're selling this at a deep discount, which, again, you don't care about the price, Amazon, as much as you care about consumer protection issues, though. If there's liability there, and we're not, typically we have a good working relationship with Amazon. And many of our clients have a hesitancy maybe to do things about this because they don't want to find themselves sideways with the behemoth that is Amazon.
Right.
When they're generating a massive amount of their revenue from their e-commerce sales on that third-party platform. But there's a way to do that, and we do this every day, where we're working in conjunction with Amazon to address these issues, oftentimes centered around potential consumer safety issues. So it's nice to see the government in some way stepping in to give that a little bit of a backbone and some legitimacy.
Well, let me share so we asked our community this question, John. We asked LinkedIn. We said, hey, what is the biggest reason B2B companies fail to protect their brands online? This is fascinating to me. The number one answer was they don't feel like they have a way to enforce or police. Number two, no executive alignment. Nobody said, I don't have a foundation of IP, or I'm afraid of backlash, IP protection, intellectual property protection. No way to enforce or police was the number one answer why companies are not protecting their brand. Does that just mean that they don't understand that they have rights to enforce? What do you think? Your reaction?
Yeah, I think there's maybe some lack of understanding as to what they can do. You hear the phrase from new clients thrown around a lot. What they'll say, this effectively, is this just whack-a-mole? Like, if we are going to go after one, and there's another one's going to pop up. To some degree, sure. But if you're not doing anything, I would argue doing something is better than doing nothing. And I think a lot of companies would be surprised at how much progress they can make, and how much they can take back the buy box and shut down a lot of these folks. Because oftentimes what we see as well is there's maybe a vast universe of resellers. Yeah. Maybe a certain percentage of those might be co-owned, or there might be the same people in a variety of different storefronts. Mm-hmm. You can shut down one. You also set an example in that marketplace. These resellers oftentimes are in communication with one another. Right. There's chat rooms and forums where they're saying, hey, did you get a cease and desist letter from KJK or law firm? How did you respond to that? What did you do? Wow. And if someone says, oh, yeah, I got one, and then I just ignored it, nothing else happened, then that's not great either. But if you actually commit to a program where you're sending letters, you're tracking and monitoring your products on the marketplace, you can really make a lot of headway and really recapture the buy box, which ultimately is protecting your brand, but protecting your profit margins in your online sale.
John, is Amazon really the big culprit here? I mean, do we see it? Do you see this happening in other places too?
Well, I would say Amazon is not the culprit. It's these sellers that are utilizing Amazon's platform.
Right. Okay.
But I think you have you see it across all these other third-party platforms as well. We see it on Alibaba, Walmart.com.
Yeah.
We see it on and every platform is a little bit different in how you approach it and address it.
Sure.
See it on eBay, for instance.
eBay,
different ball game, but similar.
But ultimately, success, John, you can get control of this if you own the brand. If you're a traditional branded B2B manufacturer, and you own it, you have intellectual property rights to that brand. You're a Milwaukee. So Milwaukee has a path to clean this up, for example, even though it's a mess right now. Sorry, Milwaukee. Right? I mean, they have
certainly. I'm not. I don't have any other than the screenshots you posted. I have not taken a look at their presence.
Right.
Didn't speak to their universe of unauthorized sellers. But if you have a brand that you're investing in, you're advertising, you're buying ad space, and you're promoting your brand in the marketplace to your consumer base and your distribution channels. I mean, this should be as big a priority as your basic advertising budget. I mean, this is, and it doesn't even have to come very close to your advertising budget.
Right.
But there is certainly things you can do. And it doesn't, people say, you know what, like I don't love the way that the judicial system operates. And the last thing I want to do was get in some lawsuit and it's long and expensive and stressful. But I mean, it doesn't even, you can commit to monitoring a cease and desist program that doesn't always have to result in litigation.
Right.
And oftentimes when it does, if there's a particular reseller that's been disruptive for years and very problematic, you decide you want to take it to the next level and file a case. They're oftentimes, every case is different for sure, but these cases are typically resolved fairly early on.
Yeah, right. You settle out, whatever. Okay, well, we're at like Friday, like 30 here, John, but this has been fascinating to talk with you. Any final questions for John before we go to our wrap up here?
I was most curious about the enforcement part, and I think he addressed that. It reminds me of the Wild Wild West. The way they used to enforce the law there was a good old public hanging, and it would send a message to anybody who wanted to do something: don't do it. You don't have to, prosecute everybody. You just have to make a mess. You have to make an example of somebody. It seems like.
Well, there's something to be said about consistency too, though, and a big part of our practice is ensuring that our clients are, not subjecting themselves to any kind of antitrust liability. So, if you're implementing a MAP policy or a minimum advertised pricing policy, and you're out there enforcing your intellectual property rights and your copyrights and trademarks, the ideal situation, certainly, you can prioritize the really problematic ones, the bad ones, and the ones that aren't so big of a concern. But you want to be as consistent as possible so that you're not subjecting yourself to some argument that, well, why are they picking on us? And, there's some antitrust issues there with the more consistent you can be, the more helpful that would be ultimately. If you want to say that, a lot of times an issue that we raise is that you're by infringing on the trademarks and copyrights of a brand, you're creating an understanding in the marketplace that there's some affiliation between our company, Milwaukee, for instance, and these unauthorized retailers, Joe's Tool Shed or whatever one you referenced, when there in fact is none. And so that creates further consumer confusion. At the end of the day, let's be honest, it's going to always come back to the brand the consumer knows.
All right. Well, we're out of time here. We do have a couple questions in from Stephen Forston. Thank you, Stephen, for asking those. We'll ask John to follow up with you, Stephen, on those. But John, thank you for joining us today. Really, great insights. And, even though we ran long today, it has been very informative. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you guys for having me.
Awesome.
It's been a pleasure, and everybody have a great weekend.
Awesome. Yeah. Hang on the line. So let's get to a couple of our announcements here, folks. We have our Master B2B Nexus program, which is something which is we announced this year, which is your personal digital lifeline. It provides expert advice exclusively for B2B e-commerce practitioners. It is a paid service for practitioners only. Think about it like advisory on demand. It's delivering real value to practitioners every day. So check it out on our website, masterb2b.com. We also have our Master B2B Forum, which is free for practitioners to join. Go to our website. You can see more information and submit an application to become a part of the conversation. If you're not there and you're in the B2B e-commerce field, you are missing out. So please join us there. And finally, I want to remind everyone that Friday 15 is available via your favorite podcast service. Please give us a review. We appreciate that. Only positive ones, please. This has been another exciting episode. Andy, any final words before we split for the day?
Not today.
All right. Well done. All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining. We'll see you next week on our next Friday 15.